Okay, I'm live. Just give it a moment. Hopefully people can hear me this time. I'm just going to give it a second to get going. It says I've got 2 people in, so if anyone is here already, just drop me a line and let me know that you can hear me. All right, my test is complete. All right, cool. Let's just give it some time. Hopefully we can get some people in this, and then we can start talking about fighting. That will be fun. It's a good time to do it, really. It's a good time to do it around now because it's kind of quiet right now with MMA. And I like, hey, what's going on? Matrix Fade, thank you for jumping onto my stream. This is my little channel where I talk about MMA, boxing, all things fighting. So just join me to have a chat. Oh, Adam, what's going on? Adam. Adam, how are you? How's Romano? I'm guessing it's Adam from Bradford. Yeah, I know many Adams, but I'm guessing it's my little cousin Adam. Guys, jump in. Talk to me about fighting. Walaikum salam, Yusuf. I hope you're doing well. How are you? How's family? Everyone good? Getting excited for the fight game and everything that's going on now. So as people are starting to come in, I guess it's also remember to hit that thumbs up button for me, guys. Get some get me popping in the algorithm a bit and get me a bit more recognized. That would be good. But yeah, let's start talking about fighting a little bit. Then I guess now's a good time. So tonight we got the Ryan Garcia fight. This is not something that most of the MMA fans are looking forward to, but in this day and age, hey, what's going on, my brother? My eyes shine when I see a Mindful Combat live stream coming, probably as much as when I see an MMA cage. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. These live streams are a great way for us to connect, to chat, to build up relationships, rapport, and just talk about fighting, stuff that maybe I don't cover in the videos. The videos tend to be a lot of effort trying to get some views and stuff, whereas this for me is very relaxed, chill out, talk about fighting. So how are you, bro? Are you looking forward to the upcoming card? We've obviously got the Max Holloway Calvin Kattar fight coming up, which is one that I'm super stoked and excited about. Cannot wait to see that fight. I think it's going to be one of the best fights of the year, and it's one of the first fights of the year. So how exciting is that? Cannot wait to see that one play out. And I think there's going to be a lot on the line for the winner of that. I think if Calvin Kattar wins that fight, Calvin Kattar is going to be leapfrogging Max Holloway. Not Max Holloway. He's going to be even leapfrogging Zabit Magomedsharipov, who beat Calvin Kattar in line for the title shot. If you rebound the way he has and he beats Max Holloway, what an incredible run that will be, and he'll be definitely in line for a title shot. For Zabit, the activity has just not been there. He won against Calvin Kattar, but it weren't a fight where people were blown away because there was so much to be said about that third round. It looked like he gassed out by the time he got to the third round, and Calvin Kattar put it on him in the third round. So you got to wonder how that would have went in a 5-round fight. So I think even though he walked away with a win over a really respected commodity and a top contender at featherweight, Calvin Kattar almost won more from that fight than Zabit, because no one really knew or respected Calvin Kattar. Francesco, people like me and you, we would have known who Calvin Kattar is, and we would have known how dangerous Calvin Kattar is, but I don't think people really knew or understood that. But hopefully now with time, people are going to start putting some respect on his name. So this is a really big and key fight for me. It's one that cannot wait. Hello, brother. How's it going, my brother? Traffic Jam. Nice to see you on the live stream. Just a great opportunity for us to chat and talk about anything fighting. So there's literally no etiquette to this. Drop whatever you want to talk to me about when it comes to MMA, boxing, whatever fighting sport, and I'll pick it up. We'll talk about it. I tend to get a little bit behind the questions if it's a busy stream. If it's not a busy stream, then it's obviously easier to keep up with. But only 6 people, 9 o'clock on a Saturday. I'm not expecting it to be super busy, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this. I've always enjoyed these. But yeah, thank you for jumping on, bro. Francisco, Max is on a losing skid, but if he continues the same way as he came in against Volkanovski, well, good luck, Calvin. You're going to need it. Yeah, he's on a losing skid, but I think it's important to remember that who his losses are against. He lost to Dustin Poirier at 155 for an interim title. Then he lost to Volkanovski in a title fight. Then he probably should have won the second fight to Volkanovski. So it's it's tough to say he's on a slump, though. I do think that it's relevant to note that he's on a skid, because you've got to remember momentum's not on his side, and mentally how's that impacting him. But he just seems like a guy who's just ready to breeze through everything. Keenan K in the house, the man, the MVP himself, YouTube legend. Salam, bro. Walaikum salam. Hope you're well. Hope your family's well. Thoughts on Fizev? Reckon he can be a future champ? He most certainly can be a future champ. 100%. He's such a devastating, dangerous guy. I think he's got all the tools you need to be a future champ. The problem is we don't know just how good he is yet because we haven't seen him tested against the true cream of the crop or even the top 15 guys. When we start seeing him fight some top 15 guys, I think that's when we're going to start seeing a lot of his potential and seeing just how dangerous he is. And I think that's going to be very, very important. Can't wait to see him progress. I'm a huge fan of his as well. Timothy Gallagher, yo, what's going on, my bro? Hope you're well, man. It's nice to see you about. Hope you're doing good. Hope family's well. I need to see Fiziev versus McGregor in my life. That will be so much fun. But all right, so whilst that will be a lot of fun, I don't think we ever do see that fight. They're just at such different points in their careers. That's a dude who's super, super respected in the world of K1 as well. He's done a lot of things in K1 strict kickboxing. So that's a dangerous guy. And I think stylistically, that's a really fun fight with Conor McGregor. Yeah, I would like to see that as well. I just don't think that we're going to be seeing that. I think Rafael Fiziev, we're going to be seeing him go a different route. I want to see him start getting tested against some of the top guys. Renato Moicano's dangerous though, but it kind of makes you think back to Magomedov, or what's his name? Mustafa Magomedov or something like that, who actually stopped him. If that guy can get some consistency going, maybe he's someone to remember as well. But I like Fiziev. I think he's going to be very dangerous. Can't wait to see him fight. I'm also super excited about some of the upcoming fights that we've got with Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier on the horizon as well. That is so exciting. That's so exciting to me right now. What is the most compelling matchup at lightweight right now, unannounced or announced? Okay, now this is so fun. That's such a fun thing to think about, right? The most compelling lightweight fight for me right now would definitely be Charles Oliveira versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen because Khabib, for all intents and purposes, is probably retired at this stage. So if we take him at his word, it's probably going to be Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier that I would really like to see. This stylistic matchup is so fun where Dustin's not really a guy who gets dominated on the ground just like that. I know he did against Khabib, but he's a great fight. But there's so many fun fights at lightweight to be made. Even when you go down the rankings and down the totem pool, if you was to match up someone like Tony Ferguson and Dan Hooker, that will be a bloodbath. That will be so much fun. But I want to see Charles Oliveira versus Khabib. If I can make two fights right now, just that dude's so dangerous with his guard, I would love to see that fight. Pretty surprised when I heard Max is done with sparring. I can understand he wants to preserve his longevity, but no sparring at all. I'm not sure if that can do some good to him. Yeah, I don't like it, man. I know it's not good to be getting beat up the way a lot of fighters get beat up in the gym regularly. That does take away, mileage and everything. But you gotta wonder how that's going to impact him. Now, a good example is Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler didn't spar for a good 4 or 5 years in his career. And that was a stretch in the Strikeforce where he went 3 wins and 5 losses. And he looked really, really flat and terrible in that fight. He started sparring again and he went on a championship run. So I think it's important to remember that. I think sparring is important. I think sparring sensibly is even more important. But Max knows what he's doing. Let's see. It's going to be interesting to see how this works out for Max. I wish he was sparring, but I guess Max got to do what Max got to do. Yeah, let's see. Why does everyone say Jones, Moores, Adesanya? I reckon it becomes competitive. Yeah, so that at this stage, I don't think you can say Jones, Moores, Adesanya. I think what we've seen from Jones's last few fights is he's turned into essentially a striker, and he's had 50-50 fights with Dominic Reyes and Thiago Santos. Israel Adesanya is a much better pure striker than both of them. If Jones doesn't use his size and his wrestling, Izzy's going to give him a lot of trouble. I don't know that he will start to use his size and wrestling a bit more, but I think that fight's a lot closer than a lot of people are making out, especially when you consider where Jones is in his career. This is a John Jones that I would say past his peak when you look at his career, the fact that he's 33 years old, the fact that maybe he's lost a lot of motivation because he probably got tired of dominating everyone for so long. So maybe it's to do with motivation and maybe he'll get it back at heavyweight. He's already won the light heavyweight title 3 times with never losing it in the ring. So it's hard to stay motivated. But in my opinion, I think he's shown signs of a fighter that's starting to diminish. You should look out for them even when a fighter's on a long win streak. This is a guy who was world champion back in 2010 when he was 23 years old. So no doubt that his body's had some wear and tear, man. He's had wars as well. Even if you look at his fights recently, Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes was a war. Gus was a war. Daniel Cormier was a war. It has an impact on you. I got clowned for saying Charles would be Khabib's most interesting matchup months ago. People are ridiculous. You see, my bro, I done a video where I said where I went through the biggest threats to Khabib Nurmagomedov in the division right now, and Charles Oliveira was on that, and that was before Charles Oliveira beat Kevin Lee. So I've recognized that Charles will be dangerous to Khabib for a long time, particularly in his most recent run, where he looks to have improved his durability and he's very, very dangerous. I think Charles is a very, very credible threat to Khabib Nurmagomedov on the feet and on the ground. On the feet, particularly, I think he's a lot more diverse than Khabib. And on the ground, I think Khabib's obviously got great control, but he's so dangerous with his submissions. You blink and Khabib's going to be in big, big trouble. Charles is not an easy win by any stretch of the imagination, and no one could ever accuse me of being a bandwagoner because I've done a video on this about a year ago when no one was talking about Charles. So I've got that going for me. Oh man, Adesanya versus Blachowicz, what a great fight that is. Adesanya is a wizard on the feet, we all know that, but there is serious Polish power issue considering that Adesanya is not a natural 205er while Jan is. That's a very, very good point. I think that's a great fight right there. I think it's important to remember that Israel Adesanya isn't a 205er, and actually he's not even necessarily the biggest 185er. Yes, he's tall, but he's a very slim built guy. He's a guy who's very lean naturally and doesn't cut a ton of weight to make 185. I think technically speaking, he is very, very dangerous. But when you consider that Kelvin Gastelum had a lot of success on the feet against Israel Adesanya, was able to bust him up, land big shots. If Jan Blachowicz lands those same big shots, Israel's going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, this isn't a situation with Paulo Costa where you had a brute who was pretty unproven. Yes, he had a 50-50 fight with Yoel Romero, which could have gone other way. But, you know, other than that, his biggest win was Uriah Hall, and he hadn't fought in over a year, and he was a striking-based fighter who had only had 13 professional mixed martial arts fights. But yeah, it's different. I think Jan's very, very dangerous. He's a big brute. I see my bro Keenan K saying Kelvin's a way better striker than Jan. He's way faster and a southpaw. It's true. He's much better technically than Kelvin, but that's not really what I meant. I didn't mean that Jan's technically more proficient than Israel Adesanya. I just mean that there's much more dire consequences with someone like Jan, who has got formidable boxing and he is very talented on his feet. He's also very, very experienced. This isn't a 13-0 Paulo Costa who hadn't fought in a year. This is a true light heavyweight who's been active fighting the best fighters in the world. So I think this is going to become a dangerous fight for Israel Adesanya, a lot more dangerous than a lot of the fights he's had. To be fair, Adesanya has improved since Gastelum. Yeah, he has. Very much so, he has. Much more clever and much more smooth. Yep, yeah, agreed. He should bulk a little bit, I think, for 205. Otherwise, that could affect his durability against Blachowicz. I wonder if he's going to look 20 pounds heavier. Yeah, I think he will look 20 pounds heavier. I think it is important to bulk. I think bulking and strength training is very much a part of fighting, but I don't know that Israel Adesanya agrees or believes in the case. Even when you look at his his kickboxing career, he's not been a guy that's traditionally gotten very, very big. He's a guy that's traditionally like to walk in at his weight, and then it's just been natural for him. He just walks in, weighs in on a scale. I don't think he's going to put on the pounds, and I think that is going to impact him in this fight because size does matter in fighting, regardless what anyone says. I think Jan will be shadow boxing. Yeah, he might be. I think Israel Adesanya might be able to outmove him. I'm not picking Jan to win the fight, bro. I think Israel Adesanya is very, very dangerous. I think he's a much, much better striker. His diversity in his game is obviously much further. So it's dangerous for a fighter like Jan to take that fight, but it's going to be a fun fight and one I can't wait for. I'm going to be stealing some Keenan K traditional videos there while Jan Blachowicz destroys and finishes Israel Adesanya. I've got a couple of those coming out this week as well. So keep your guys tuned for that, guys. I've done the Conor McGregor fight this week. Got a couple of videos coming out on that fight. So should be a good week for videos. Hope you guys enjoy those. Izzy is going to have the speed and technique advantage on the feet, but what if Jan shoots for a takedown? Can Izzy's solid takedown defense hold on a natural 2 or 5 or 2? Yeah, I think he's got good solid takedown defense. I think it's important to remember that Jan's not necessarily a wrestler. If you think back to Jan's fights with Alexander Gus and you know, Patrick Cummins, and like even someone like Patrick Cummins, he was able to get out wrestled quite easily by those guys, and we haven't really seen his wrestling tested since that fight. Also, he's not a guy that traditionally is going to really like to get into a wrestling exchange. I think if he goes to the wrestling to test Israel Adesanya's takedown defense, the biggest issue that he's going to have to come up with or deal with is going to be his size and his strength and his raw ability to hold him against the cage and take him down. That will you know, evaporate throughout the fight. It won't be as deadly if he relies on his strength to get Israel Adesanya down in the first round. He won't be able to hold it with that same you know, oomph in the third, fourth, and fifth round, because he will slow down. Israel Adesanya is going to get more comfortable in there, and where he's not a natural wrestler, that lactic acid is going to build up in his shoulders and it's just going to slow down his boxing. If he comes with a wrestling heavy game plan, I think that's a bad idea for Yan. He's got to do what he's always been good at. He's got to take away Israel Adesanya's distance. He's got to smash him in the body with those kicks, and he's got to hit him hard, as hard as he can, so that Israel Adesanya can feel the weight difference, and that's going to be his keys to winning that fight. Won't be his grappling, in my opinion. That's just how I see it, and how I think it's going to play out. It's a fun fight, though. I'm really annoyed that we didn't get to see John Jones versus Izzy. I think it would have been fun to remember to see that fight happen at 205. But Yan versus Izzy is a great fight and one I can't wait for. So I think I'm very excited about that. And I can tell the consensus in the mixed martial arts community that most people are excited about that fight. I don't know who they're picking to win, but it should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Got a question for you guys, actually. What fight are you guys most excited in January? I think there's so many great fights at 205, throughout January in 2021. And I think there's so much that people can look forward to. What are the fights that you guys are looking most forward to? I think for me, it's definitely the Calvin Kattar, Max Holloway fight. I was really looking forward to seeing Khamzat Chimaev versus Leon Edwards, and I'm disappointed that that fight didn't pan out. Would have loved to have seen that fight, but it's annoying. Reckon Adesanya Till would sell out Wembley? Yeah, it would definitely sell out Wembley. If Adesanya and Till was to ever happen, if Till could get his game together, I don't know, say win 2 or 3 fights, say he beats the Joker, another top contender, you can give him a title fight realistically with a 2-fight win streak against top guys. Adesanya and Till would most certainly sell out Wembley. I know I would be there. I would expect Keenan K to fly over, and I would see him there. And all of you guys that are, you know, avid MMA fans in Europe should definitely join me if that ever happens in Wembley, and we can check that one out. It'll be great. I think without that would sell out Wembley. The question is really when Wembley will be back to hosting fights and when they will allow us to have 80,000 people in one arena together again. I think it's going to be a long time before we see that, and I think that's pretty sad as a fight fan to remember that. But yeah, here's to hoping that happens soon, though. I'm really getting fed up with all this lockdown stuff, but let me not start being anti-lockdown on a live stream. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. If Adesanya versus Till in England happens, I'm coming too. Oh, bro, that would be great. It'll be great. Come down, bring your old man, and then we can all grab dinner afterwards. I know too many great restaurants in London, and that would be great. I would love that to happen, man. My man came down here. We weren't able to grab a coffee together, but we did manage to have a nice chat, meet up together. That was excellent. First time I met one of my subscribers, and now he's a good buddy of mine, all the way from over in Israel. So it's great for me to be able to build those relationships from around the world. It's great, man. I appreciate you, bro. Oh, Alexander Gustafsson, I love that guy. I want the Mauler back. He definitely looked rusty in his lost to Doing, but I get chills only thinking back to his first fight with John Jones. Yeah, wasn't that excellent? Wasn't his first fight with John Jones incredible? I wish that we could go back to and see a few or more of those types of fights. I do miss Gus. Gus, it's sad to think that since 2013 and his great fight with John Jones, he's gone 3 wins and 6 losses. He rides a 3-fight win streak, and he hasn't won a fight since he looked exceptional against Glover Teixeira. I always felt like one of the biggest problems that Alexander Gustafsson had, aside from gaining his passion, losing his passion, was his activity. He was a guy that relied on footwork and movement. Keenan said it great. He said in his John Jones fight, you're a counter striker and a guy who relies on his movement. All of a sudden, you want to be a pressure fighter. That's a stupid thing to do. And I think that caught up with him really, really badly, and he paid a big price for that, and it really, really did piss me off. But it's just the way it is in the fight game. Sometimes I guess you you fall in love with your punching power. He thought he's going to come in and surprise John Jones by fighting as a pressure fighter. It didn't really pan out for him that well, and it's kind of bitter to see that. But I'm a huge fan of Gus as well, and I really do want to see him go on a run at heavyweight. I didn't like that he got Fabricio Werdum right off the bat. Now, Werdum may be 43 years old, but he's still damn dangerous. I think he should be getting guys a little bit down the totem pole. I think he's with a record of 18-7, not having won since 2008. No, 2017 was the last time he won. I want to see Gus fighting someone in a bit lower ranked. I appreciate you too, brother. I can't wait to go back to London and hang out again. I look forward to that, man, and I'm getting myself in some pretty good shape now. Well, I was until lockdown happened, so we can do some rounds as well. That would be great. Do some training, and I look forward to that. Terrell Brown, what's going on, my brother? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for jumping on the stream. Do you think Nunes versus Shevchenko 3 has to happen, or do you think it's better they stay both dominant champions with an unbeatable mystique? It doesn't have to happen. I'm okay with Shevchenko having 2 losses to Amanda Nunes when you consider the fact that she probably could have gotten the decision in the Nunes fight. I would have liked to have seen her get the decision in the Nunes fight. I definitely scored it for her, but she was never a 135er. You could tell Nunes is having success at 145. She's much, much bigger than Valentina Shevchenko, so I think it's important to remember that. I think what we would like to see, what I would personally like to see is Valentina Shevchenko versus Weili Zhang. If Weili Zhang can beat, if she can beat Rose Namajunas, then that and Shevchenko can take out her next contender. I think that would be a great fight. That would be a super fight, and one that I would love to see. And I think, just judging by the traction that Weili brings, that would be a humongous women's fight. And for Amanda Nunes, she's jumping up and down in divisions anyway. I don't think it needs to happen. I think they're called to keep their mystique. I would love to have seen Caitlin Vera or Irene Aldana become true contenders to Amanda Nunes. I would love to see Kayla Harrison get signed by the UFC after her time with PFL's done, and maybe give her a shot with Amanda Nunes. I think there's a lot of fun fights to be had out there, and I think that's one that we should watch for carefully. Do you think Tony Ferguson is done, or are fans overreacting? I think it's a bit of both, brother. I think Tony Ferguson, we have to remember, is 36 years old. He has lost 2 fights in a row, and he hasn't looked the best. But he's always been a guy that's been very hittable. It doesn't really matter if you lose 2 fights, if one's to the number 1 and number 2 guys, and guys that are in line for title shots. Yes, you're not going to be a title contender, but it doesn't mean you're done. I don't think we should write off Tony Ferguson because he lost to 2 of the best lightweights in the world and 2 fights that were stylistically poor for them. Now, I picked against him in both of those fights. I'm not saying that to blow my own trumpet. It's just to say that I recognize those were poor stylistic matchups for him, and they would have been poor stylistic matchups for him 3 years earlier even. I don't think Ferguson's done by any stretch of the imagination. I think the winner of maybe even the loser of Chandler versus Dan Hooker versus Tony Ferguson will be a great fight. I think Tony Ferguson should have a rest. It's seemingly not the best time for him to be fighting. He needs to have a little break, piece himself together, and come back. But he's a very dangerous fighter and a guy that I really enjoy fighting. I'm really annoyed that Pettis left the UFC because I actually liked the Pettis-Ferguson rematch. If not, the winner of Beneil Dariush and Carlos Diego Ferreira's rematch versus Tony Ferguson will be a great fight to either, put him back into the discussion as being a top contender, or we can move on. But I don't think he's done yet. Looking forward to 2021, Francis versus Stipe, Chef versus Andrade, and Weili versus, great fights, great fights. 2021 is going to be a great year for MMA fans, and I'm so glad to have been able to bring back my live streams to talk to you guys about this, because there's only so much I can cover in the videos. Working a full-time job, I also have a part-time gig on the side, and full-time family man as well. So it's it is busy, but I do enjoy talking about all these fights. I'm sorry, I'm a fan of Adesanya, but Jones versus Adesanya, I see Jones winning. I think Jones matches Izzy pretty well on the feet with his diversity and unpredictability. I would say that he's a dangerous stylistic matchup for Izzy. I think that's fair and quite easy to say that. I think anyone that doesn't think that John Jones could beat Israel Adesanya at this point is getting far too much on the Israel Adesanya hype wagon. Whilst I think Izzy is very dangerous and can beat John Jones, that's a good fight. And whilst I do think that John Jones is starting to decline, based on the fact that I feel like he's showing me signs of declining, I would definitely not count him out in a fight with Israel Adesanya. I want to see Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor instead of Dustin versus Conor. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that as well. I think that was the better fight, especially with, it's a new fight. I've always liked seeing new fights. I think it's important to mix it up, get diversity up in the matchups. And with Conor, it's always so hard to predict when you're going to see him next. So I would love to have seen him versus Justin Gaethje. I think that would have been a great fight. And who knows how that would have gone. I think I would probably pick Conor, but, that could go either way. There's so many variables to that fight. I might do a breakdown on that fight. Actually, I've done a breakdown on that fight. I've given my prediction, guys. Check that one out. Do you think Nunes can maintain the 135 cut? I think she can. I don't think she obviously cuts a bit to get to 135. I don't think she cuts that much to get to 145. I think it's a matter of opposition and talent. There's not too much there at 135. There was a time when Nunes joked about going to 125 as well. I wonder if that was a semi-truth. I don't think that was. I think at 125, Shevchenko will get her at 135. That fight's a lot more competitive, though. I think Nunes can maintain the fight, the cut to 135 to answer your question. And people make it like Charles Oliveira beat him down when he didn't. All he did was wrestle fuck Ferguson free. It's true. Like, Ferguson didn't take too much damage in that fight outside of the armbar attempt. He was able to get dominated on the ground, which surprised me. But I think people are just quick to write fighters off. I think in MMA, you see a lot of that. Guys that will have lost one fight, even in boxing, really, they'll lose one fight and everyone will write them off. I don't think it's fair to say that. You can't write off Ferguson. I think Charles Oliveira had a good game plan. It surprised me that he was able to do that to Tony, but Tony's not done. Not by a long shot. Okay, where are we? Ferguson can fight. Ferguson can fight loser of Conor and Dustin. Yeah, why not? Especially if Dustin loses that fight. I think that's a great fight. That was a fight that was meant to happen. You know what? The super fan in me and Ferguson wants to see him take a little bit of an easier fight for his next fight. But him versus Dustin, if he loses, or him versus Conor, if Conor loses, will be a great fight. One that will be so much fun. Plus, I think Jones has a 2 to 3 inch reach advantage over Izzy, and he is a master of managing distance. To me, I think Izzy can have success against Jones, but could that be enough? I don't think so. You know what? You might be right. Jones's size, distance, ability to manage distance, and diversity in his striking might be too much for Izzy to deal with. Also, size, strength. I think Jones will be much more physically imposing than Israel Adesanya, and the clinch is going to be very dangerous. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Jones would hurt Izzy, maybe. I'm tired of seeing Conor fight Nate Diaz. I don't want to see that fight no more. I think we saw it twice. It was a great fight. I think both of those guys have other options right now, so they might as well venture into those other options. But I get the feeling that if Conor wins this fight, we're going to see Nate Diaz return to 155 to fight Conor. I don't know why. It's not logical because Conor should be fighting Charles Oliveira. If he wins this fight, it should be Conor versus Charles for the lightweight championship. I'm not so sure that that's what gets done, but let's see how it plays out. I'm tired of seeing that as well, yeah. But still, I haven't quite figured out what Jones is doing at heavyweight. Just please don't let him surpass Francis Ngannou. That guy has to be next for Miocic's title. I agree. I really don't want to see Francis Ngannou not get a title shot. The dude's already 34 years old. He's hardly been fighting once a year. He's knocked out 4 straight top contenders, all within one round. Nothing more to be done to get a rematch. That's what he deserves next, is a rematch. What's he going to do next? Rematch Derek Lewis just to get that one. We don't care. We need to see Ngannou versus Miocic next. Completely with you on that. Thoughts on Peter Yan? Continue him keeping the belt for a while. I am huge on Peter Yan. I think, or should I say Petra Yan. I think he's devastating, very good on the feet. Great boxing, great conditioning, well-rounded, good wrestling. I think he's going to be a bantamweight champion for a while. I think he's going to beat Aljamain Sterling, and I think he's going to be the top of the tier in that division for a little while to come. I think Peter Yan is very dangerous, and I look forward to seeing Peter Yan's reign. I'm huge on Peter Yan. Nate Diaz, both him and Nick, where the hell are they? So me and my little brother was talking about this, and I think it's important to remember with Nick Diaz, he never necessarily loved fighting. He just done fighting because that's what he knew how to do. And I don't say that from in the cage perspective. He often talks about he had to train so much that he hated it and he hated his opponent, and that's the mind frame he had to get into. As I know, Nick has gotten into drinking and stuff like that, which he never done as well. I think he's made a lot of money with some of those big fights with GSP and Anderson Silva. I don't think he needs money necessarily to live the way he wants to be able to live. If he's happy with being done, and I say this as the biggest Nick Diaz fan you'll ever see. Actually, Nick Diaz is my favorite fighter of all time. Not who I think is the best fighter of all time, just my favorite fighter of all time. One of the first fights I ever watched was Nick Diaz versus Sean Sherk. I felt like he got robbed in that fight. I'm okay with Nick Diaz never fighting again. I think if that's what he wants to do, we don't need to see Nick if he's not in the game. Well, I always wanted to see Conor versus Tony. That would have been a great fight. It broke my brain actually when Tony was the interim champion that Conor didn't come back, and instead he waited for Khabib, because I felt like Tony was a great stylistic matchup for Conor. Because Tony's a guy that would keep it on the feet and try to bust you up. Conor's a guy who would land, and Tony was hittable. He also showed me that he had somewhat of a susceptible shin when he got dropped by Lando Venata and stuff. I was surprised that fight didn't happen then. I thought for sure when Tony choked out Kevin Ferguson that we were going to be seeing that fight happening next, but it just didn't play out like that. I'm surprised. I'm really, really surprised that that's not what happened. But yeah, I would have loved to see that. Does Andrade pose Valentina problems? She poses her problems because her strength, her grappling, and her punching power is dangerous. And with 4-ounce gloves, anything can happen. But technically speaking, Valentina Shevchenko is so superior to Jessica Andrade that I just don't see it playing out like that. Actually, what I would like to see is Andrade have to have one more fight at 125. Just because Valentina's already cleared out the division, we might as well see Andrade put together 2 wins before she gets into that fight. And but you know, who else is there to fight? What's that chick's name? Liz Murphy. Don't really care to see that fight versus Shevchenko. She proposes the most threat at 125 of anyone else, but I don't think she gets it done against Val. No, I think Val's too dangerous. KR Lee, loving the live stream, bro. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. I think Kater beats Max. That's not out of the likes of possibility in this fight, especially when you consider how dangerous Kater's look and how susceptible Max can be to boxing at times. But with the pressure that Max is going to put on, I think Max is going to take it. If you're interested, I've done a full detailed breakdown on that fight. It's on my channel. It's one of my more recent videos. So check out the breakdown, and I give my full breakdown on that fight and give my prediction. Sean Sherk, how in the world did that roided chunky weigh on Yeah, the muscle shark. That was the wild, wild west of MMA, weren't it? Back in the days. It was funny when he tested positive and then he said, "Oh, but I took a lie detector test and I proved I didn't take steroids." But he was definitely on something. He actually fought for Matt Hughes for the welterweight title once upon a time as well. I remember watching that fight. I had a lot of fun watching that fight. He was never a welterweight though. He was just a big, muscular guy who had packed on way too much muscle to be efficient as a fighter. I think that certainly impacted his game. It was stupid in my opinion. I don't think he should have done it. If Conor beats Dustin it's for the belt. Prepared for Conor to hold up the lightweight division again and not defend it. That will be so bitterly disappointing. If Conor wins the belt, now would be time to rectify his wrongs and defend the title and prove that he is a defending champion. I think we as fans deserve to see him have to defend the belt. If he's to say, for example, win the belt, and then, I don't know, he gets matched up with Kamaru Usman or some shit like that, I would be so disappointed in that as a fan. I feel like a hypocrite because I would watch that, but that's really not what I want to see or what anyone wants to see, in my opinion. No true mixed martial arts fan wants to see that. We want to see him defend the title, so yeah. Is McGregor versus Masvidal competitive? I think Masvidal beats him, but it can be competitive. I think it's easy to forget just how good McGregor can be on the feet, but with Masvidal's size and diversity in his game, even leg kicks alone, I think Conor will have a lot of problems. But I think that is a competitive fight. Masvidal beats him. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think Masvidal beats him too. So I think that's important to remember that that fight. You shouldn't write off Conor McGregor just because of what we've seen of him lately. He's a very talented fighter, and Masvidal. He's a guy that he's seemingly growing into his game. Definitely some maturity that he's taken on board in the cage and some much more urgency. I wish he wouldn't have taken the fight against Kamaru Usman on 6 days' notice. But that just goes to show a lot about who he is and how much he believes in himself. So Masvidal is a very dangerous fighter, and I look forward to seeing Masvidal come out and fight Colby Covington. I think that's going to be a much more competitive fight than a lot of people are giving him credit for. Gus Harris, thank you for joining the live stream. I appreciate you, bro. Does Masvidal have much of a ground game? Yeah, he certainly does have a great ground game. I think you can watch Masvidal grapple with Anthony Pettis, and they're absolutely big brothers in that grappling match. But if you look at Masvidal's career, Damian Maia wasn't able to submit Masvidal. Kamaru Usman was hardly able to take him down, and when he took him down, it wasn't that easy. It's not like he dominated him on the ground. Masvidal is a guy who's been very underrated for a long time. That's because he lost some decisions that probably should have gone his way. The Ally Quinton fight jumped straight to my mind right away. And then if you go back in his career, if you watched him in Strikeforce, you know that he could have even maybe potentially been given the Gilbert Melendez decision. So this is a guy who's had some really bad decisions in his career. And he's got 13 losses, but he's 35 years young. He's shown that he still wants it so much. So Masvidal was very good, and he's definitely got a legitimate ground game. Aside from roids, how in the world do both Tyron Woodley and Kamaru Usman weigh only 170? I mean, they both could jump to 185 effortlessly. They both walk around at 200 pounds. It is crazy to think. I don't know about the roids with both of those guys, but it is crazy to think that both of them make 170 pounds when you look at how thickly muscled they are. But I think with both of them guys, it's important to remember that they are wrestlers and they've been cutting weight their entire lives. So maybe it's something that they're just used to, and maybe for them it's just a natural part of the fight game that for them fighting is cutting weight. So that could just be the way it is for them. Gus, hello mate. Terrell Brown, please don't call me crazy, but I think Masvidal would TKO Conor, and I also think Justin Gaethje would knock out Conor too. Well, I don't know about Justin Gaethje because I feel like Conor would know that Justin is very dangerous. Utilize the movement that we saw back in the days, and I think he's got great boxing and defensively, Justin Gaethje's always been a bit hittable. I don't think that he would keep himself from Conor the whole time, but I think that's a 50-50 fight, actually, to be honest with you, and that one could go either way. But I do think Masvidal will take Conor McGregor just based on size alone and diversity in his game. Would he get the TKO maybe later, because Conor's been known to slow down? Exhaustion alone could cause a lot of problems. So it'll be very interesting to see how that one goes. Zorro, Damian Maia said that Masvidal's defensive ground game is the best he has ever seen. Well, that says a lot, doesn't it? Because Damian Maia is probably the best pure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist to ever compete in MMA. I don't know if my father-in-law would agree with me with that, but he's definitely very, very dangerous, Damian Maia. So I think it's important to remember just how tough a time Damian Maia had with Masvidal, and this was when he was easily strangling everyone. I wish Masvidal would have won that fight and got in the fight with Tyron Woodley, though, because that would have been a great fight. And people make it like Conor would just bust up Justin on the feet, and Justin is going to take the fight to him. It certainly wouldn't be an easy fight. I think Justin's going to be in his face the whole time, and he's going to be giving him chili sauce the whole time, the pressure. If the fight was to go past 2 rounds, Justin Gaethje is winning that fight for sure, in my opinion. I'll put it that way. But Volkanovski in 2021, does he stay champion? I think Ortega is very, very dangerous. I think Ortega can beat Volkanovski. I think the Ortega fight is going to be the toughest fight he's going to have all year. If Zabit gets to a title shot, I don't think it'll be as tough as the Ortega fight is. I kind of lean towards Ortega, but if he can get past Ortega, then probably, yeah. But I guess I'm not answering your question. I don't think he does, because I think he loses to Ortega. But that's a very crude pick. That's not my official breakdown of it. Justin ain't going to back down from Conor. He won't. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he won't. Justin's going to be there the whole time, and he fires bombs. And as Josh Thompson will say, he's got dogs in his hands. So that's really, really a difficult fight for Conor. Who does Wonderboy beat in the top 5? Who does he beat in the top 5? Right, that's an interesting question. And for that, you've got to look at the top 5 of the welterweight division. We've got Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington. Colby Covington, I think that's a 50-50 fight. I think he could beat him. He's vastly better on the feet. Defensively, his wrestling's always been good, but I don't know if he'll be able to keep it on the feet. We know that he beats Masvidal because he beat Masvidal like he stole something last time they fought. Does he beat Leon Edwards? I think he can beat Leon Edwards. I think Leon Edwards can beat him as well. That's a 50-50 fight. It's hard because that's a really tough and really competitive division. I think you know, you could see a lot of stuff play out in that division. I think there's a lot of people that Wonderboy could still beat in the top 5 of the welterweight division. I think there's a lot of big fights to be had there. But listen up, guys. I'm gonna get ready to knock it off right now. So within the next 2 minutes, I'll call it a day. So I'm just gonna give a minute in for some last questions to come in, and then I'll be jumping off at around the 40-minute mark. Well, I guess 42-minute mark, but. Yeah, no way Gaethje knocks out Conor. Conor striking is way more polished than Justin's. If I was Gaethje, whatever Conor would come forward, I'll just chop him down, crush his legs. That's another point. I think he could take Conor out. He could stop him. I don't think a TKO just has to be based on ability to outbox him. He could exhaust Conor. He could mow down his legs. And when Conor gets battered and beaten up and tired, that's when Gaethje can shine. So he can definitely stop Conor if the fight goes past 2 rounds. And we know that Justin Gaethje is such a durable guy. So yeah, I think that fight is a very, very close one. In Conor beating Don Cerrone, I gave him 0 credit for that win. I don't give him too much credit for that win either. That was nothing but a cannon fodder and a way for him to get off rust because that's what are you meant to do? What are you meant to do with that? How are you meant to take the fight when you look at Don Cerrone? He had lost 2 fights before that by KO. He lost that fight, then lost to Pettis, and then he had a draw with Nico Price. That's not a special talent right there. No disrespect to Cowboy. I'm a huge fan of Cowboy, but he's obviously on the downswing of his career. Can he do a breakdown for Ferguson versus Conor? I can absolutely do a breakdown for Ferguson versus Conor. My videos for this week are recorded already, so maybe I'll do it the week after. Let me know if you want it for a modern day Ferguson or a prime Ferguson, what I would consider maybe 2 to 3 years ago. Or we can do it both from now in 2021 now, I guess, as they stand and what we've seen of them lately. I might actually wait until the Dustin Poirier fight happened, so I can actually reevaluate Conor's skill set because I haven't seen him fight since his fight with Don Cerrone. So let's let his fight with Dustin Poirier happen. Let's see what his skill set is like, and then I'll definitely do a breakdown on that both. All right, yeah, no, cool. That sounds good, bro. I appreciate that. Gus Harris, peace out, brother. Whitaker versus Costa. Your thoughts, mate? Thanks, bro. So I think Whitaker will outbox Costa. I think he's going to pick him apart. I think he's far too well-rounded, far too diverse in his striking. And I like Costa, but Costa's a guy who relies on his striking as his skill set. He's only had 13 professional fights, and he's vastly too thickly muscled to be a fighter. I think his cardio is going to get impacted. He's had one 50-50 fight with Yoel Romero. Outside of that, he hasn't really done nothing. I think Whitaker will light him up like a Christmas tree and win a decision. I think Whitaker will get that fight, maybe even stop him. Crazy fantasy fight, regardless of the way, just skill for skill. Justin Gaethje versus Yoel Romero, both juggernauts with an impressive wrestling background, but not only using it. Okay. Skill for skill, pound for pound, I think you would have to say Justin Gaethje has more diversity in his game, but Yoel Romero's a lot more explosive. So considering how explosive a prime Yoel was, you look at his Chris Weidman fight and how hittable Justin Gaethje can be, I think he would have probably got himself clocked and knocked out at some point if you just made them both the same exact size. I think Yoel Romero in his peak would have taken that fight. Really tough and exciting fight to think about, though. If Conor fights Ferguson, he's going to bleed. Definitely, he's going to get busted up, cut up, and stylistically, it's a great fight for both of them. But right, guys, I'm going to call it a night now. Going to get on, plan myself. I'll probably watch a movie or something tonight, relax with the missus, and just have a bit more of a chilled out one. Thank you guys for tuning into the live stream. I appreciate all of you. If you guys ain't subscribed already, remember to hit the subscribe button, although I know all of you guys. So maybe whoever's watching later on, if you ain't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep the live streams coming. So tune in next week at 9 p.m. UK time. I don't know how that works out in the US, but definitely jump on board. Thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you, all you guys, soon. Francisco, another one. The Battle of Nasty Elbows, John Jones versus Tony Ferguson. John Jones, man. John Jones is far too... I've never seen a man who's as analytical as John Jones and has as much diversity in his game. I would lean towards John Jones, but Ferguson on his feet is so nasty and so dangerous that John Jones would have been cut up like never before. So if weight classes weren't a thing and they were both the same exact weight, I don't know. I would lean towards John Jones just because he's shown to be so great. But guys, have a great night. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you all. Have a great week ahead, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon next week. And check out my videos coming out this week. why Dustin destroys Connor and why Connor destroys Dustin. 2 different videos where I'm looking at it from both sides. So that should be a bit of fun. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.